so we have about 100 people. Good morning, attendees. This is Shalini from Bend Reality, organizers of India Event Tech Forum. Thank you for joining us this morning. We are hosting this webinar on the topic, Embracing Technology in the Event Industry to Find Gateways for Organizers to Tackle COVID-19 Pandemic Challenges. With this, I would like to hand over to our moderator, Mr. Sandeep Nagpal, Vice President Marketing, C-Event. Over to you, Sandeep.
Thank you, Shalini. Good morning, everybody. Welcome. In the normal world, we would have been sitting in a nice hotel sipping coffee, but this is like chai pa charcha, right? So bring your own coffee and have this virtual event. In the quest of learning and need for human connection, which is never ending, we are here with industry stalwarts to discuss on embracing the technology in the event industry to tackle the pandemic challenges. I'm Sandeep Nagpal, Vice President, C-Event. We are a technology platform company powering the live hospitality solutions for more than 2 decades now. I'll be moderating the panel today. So without much ado, let me call upon now Mr. Sabbas Joseph, the man who needs no introduction, the torchbearer of event industry, co-founder and director of Wizcraft. He's the General Secretary of India's Media and Entertainment Skill Council. He's a member of the core team of FICCI Media and Entertainment Committee that set up and continues to lead the FICCI Frames Convention, which is APAC's largest convention for meeting and event industry. Recently, Sabbas joined the Global Advisory Board of the International Mice and Wedding Fraternity. He's also the founder patron of IMA. He's the man behind milestone events, which I identify with IFA, Michael Jackson live in concert, and many more iconic events. Sabbas, welcome, and the stage is yours for the keynote.
Thank you, Sandeep. Thank you, Shalini. I'm delighted to share this stage, though it's a virtual stage, with Gunjan, Chaitanya, Yogesh, Shoven, my friend Manuj, and really it's a delight to be here, being able to connect with everyone from home. You know, it's a good thing because these events start on time and no one is stuck in traffic. No one has any other reasons why not to be there, except that, oh, my internet connection is giving me trouble. But then that is something that we've learned to live with and learn to go beyond. Thank you, Shalini and India Event Tech Forum for putting this project together and initiative together. I think whilst we look at the world, technology has changed. The event has changed. The event industry has changed. And I have to say that there has never been a more exciting time for us to look at life than just now. And I'm going to try and take you through some paces on how it has changed. Physical has changed to virtual, banquet halls to digital suites, and as C-Event would tell you, event suites. Venues that were limited by space have become unlimited. They've got unlimited capacity. The virtual pods are coming. Can they be equipped with touch, feel, smell, extrasensory perceptions? I'm sure they will be. Geography suddenly is history, and travel is a dream that you're waiting to indulge in. Believe it or not, Hyatt and Marriott hotels, which hosted us, have already launched delivery services to give us our choicest meals at our home. So event catering is already available online. On another side, low touch has changed, and low touch and no touch are the new mantras. Event SOPs have changed. Health has taken precedence over safety and creativity. Sanitization over F&B. Those fancy tunnels that were built earlier have given way to sanitization tunnels. It's already come into place in Turkey airport and in Ahmedabad railway station. metro railway station. Technology will drive guest relations and management. And knowing your guest will become easier. Knowing your guest from which part of the world he's come from, which red zone, which hot zone, which green zone will become extremely important. Being connected to your guest's travel, his health history, his family's history, his colleagues' history, his city's history will become as important. And when he leaves your convention, people will be tracking him to know where he had come from. He is a victim of COVID-19. Connectivity before, during, and after is going to be key. Know your customer. Guests allow, what we know about our guests today is very limited. What we know about our guests in these COVID-19 times will almost be unlimited. Will it allow us to know our customers better? It has given us an opportunity to be invasive, intrusive, and almost know all. Can we use this to improve our understanding of the customer? Can we help our clients meet their needs better? Can we provide a better understanding, better services? Can we provide the latest updates and the best offerings served faster? For those in the technology business, this is your moment. Remember, the traffic arrives before the flyovers do. The cars are sold, the traffic is created, and that's when we realize we require flyovers. Look what demonetization did to Paytm and the multiple payment apps. Companies with technology ideas, this is your I can do it moment. This is your trampoline moment. Jump onto the trampoline and reach as high as you possibly can. And when you come down again, reach out even further. I'd say make the best of what COVID-19 has brought to you. It's a rare opportunity. Event production will be fused into one. Event production, TV production, digital production will all give you that one experience. Years ago, there was the Second Life. Today, that Second Life could become a reality. James Cameron's Avatar seemed to foresee the future, much like H.G. Wells and George Orwell. Digital avatars could become a regular feature. And event content will be the big differentiator. Innovation in content will be the key to success. We are moving from linear formats, logical. Sandeep introduces Sabbas Joseph. Sabbas Joseph speaks. Then Sandeep will introduce the panelists, and then there will be a discussion out there. No, this is still linear. Wait for it to become interactive. Wait for each of the speakers to be part of it, introducing themselves in separate breakout rooms and coming in from breakout rooms. Look at an event online which has multiple feeds in different event suites, and you'll have converted them into multiple stages. Most live events will be pre-recorded, and they'll be streamed live with great interactive content and components within the stream. AR, VR, haptics, and the forthcoming 5G will play bigger roles in user experience. As more people join the digital bandwagon, bandwidth prices for customers will go down. Look at what Japan has done years ago with Hatsune Miku. Live concerts to thousands, multiple live concerts. And Hatsune Miku doesn't exist. It's a virtual character, live in holograms. The world is talking about the virtual Travis Scott concert with Fortnite. Travis Scott, the virtual Travis Scott, his avatar appears in the Fortnite set. And the gamers, not 1 million, not 2 million, 12 million of them watch the concert live, interacted, engaged, and engaged with each other too. AR, VR, haptics are going to play a bigger role in our experience. Truthfully, we will be back. The event industry will be back. The physical will be back. irrespective of how strong the digital experience is, human touch and connectivity is best experienced in person. Emotions are best experienced in person. We are in the 3-month phase where we are talking about no touch. Soon we'll be in the 3 to 6 months phase where we'll talk about low touch. And hotels, restaurants, events, exhibitions will be designed around low touch and no touch. Robots will appear. The communication media will be screens, mobiles, apps, all of that will be used to communicate better with people without the human interface for a long time. 6 months later, we'll be talking controlled events and in controlled environments, sanitization, all of that working together. Soon, in that 6 months phase, digital and physical will start fusing together. They'll begin to morph into one. 12 to 18 months later, larger events will be back. The mass gatherings will be back. Digital will not go away. Digital will not go away. Technology has come to stay. Technology will continue to be the play, and technology will continue to drive the future. It will continue to drive events and everything that we do around events and in events. During this period, the event industry will have transformed into an event digital form, wherein physical, digital, virtual are completely merged into one. We are in that perfect period of transformation. Everything is right, nothing is wrong. Mutation, evolution, revolution are all underway at the same time. Local has become global. Collaboration is our best answer. Collaboration, why? Everyone wants to do everything, but not everyone can do everything in the same time and at the speed that we require it at. So you're better suited to tie up with technology companies where you don't have it. And technology companies are better off not trying to replicate events, not trying to be content companies, but to work with collaborations. The collaborations will make sure that we are able to respond faster, create platforms and create paradigms of success. Innovation will be the key to success. How fast we do it, how well we do it, will be determining how fast and how soon we grow. Technology will empower the way forward. Technology will ensure that we stay aligned, understand the consumer, understand technology, understand the event requirements, and keep moving forward. The new normal is the new reality. The new normal is actually the only reality. Notice this picture. Look at the distancing all around. Look at everyone in mass. Look at all of that. Is that the new normal? Yes, it could be. It could be for a while. Imagine yourself as a trapeze artist. You have that rare opportunity as a trapeze artist. You have left your bar and you have a destination, a bar on the circus far away. Now there's one trapeze artist who believes in his or her technique and reaches out and flies through the air. Technique is right, everything is right, the distance is really far. The trapeze artist falls. The trapeze artist gets up, uses the ladder, goes up again, and once again tries to go for it. Catch the second trapeze artist, the joker. His job is to make sure everyone laughs. So he jumps across and makes it his journey to go through the air. And lo and behold, he falls. He falls on the trampoline. He falls on the net that is stretched below to cushion his fall. He lands there, he waves to everyone and relaxes. And there's our final trapeze artist who's measured the distance between the bar that she is flying by and going to the next one. She's worked it out in detail enough that she can't do it. So what does she do? She has another artist who comes and reaches her, holds her hand, and takes her through part of the journey, holds on to another artist's hand, and goes on to the final leg of the journey till she reaches her bar, her destination. Collaboration. You will not be able to get through this journey alone. You will need collaborators, you will need your team, you will need teamwork, and you'll need a lot of technique, you'll need perfection of timing. If you have all of this and you work with all of this, you will have created your own playbook for success. At this point, all I can say is look ahead at the bar that you're reaching out to. Look ahead at the destination that you're reaching out to. Find your wings, believe in yourself, and fly. Even as you hold still, continue to move forward. Reach out and conquer. The world awaits. Make COVID-19 your opportunity for transformation. Make COVID-19 your opportunity for transformation. With that, Sandeep, back to you. And I hope that we have a great session and some of those insights were helpful to you and our fellow panelists too.
Thank you, Sabbas. This was not only insightful, but very optimistic and very, very helpful for all of us to calibrate and take your advice, future gazing from here and work as collaborators and ecosystem together and come out of this situation. So thank you again for taking your time out. Really appreciate it.
Thank you.
All right, guys. So, well, as Sabbas said, this pandemic is a black swan event. We're all facing this for the first time in our lifetime, probably a couple of lifetimes, right? For event industry, this is even bigger a challenge. In a matter of weeks, the global landscape has changed enormously, as Sabbas said. The professionals in events industry are now facing the pressing needs to make tough decisions quickly. In this unusual scenario, all of us are required to reconsider our options, balance two priorities on the hand. It is crucial to uphold the health, safety of our staff, sponsors, and attendees. And on the other, it is also necessary to meet financial obligations, but at the least minimize the losses for the short term. Technology, of course, as Sabbas mentioned, is playing and will continue to play more important role in planning and executing events, whether it is resource planning, budgeting, venues, execution, and most importantly, the attendee experience. I today have 5 stalwarts from the industry who have immense experience in the event space, and I would like to introduce them before diving into the further discussions. My panelists are Mr. Yogesh Mudras, Managing Director, Informa Markets, India Private Limited. Yogesh, hi. Manuj Agarwal, CEO, Percept Live. Hey, Manuj. Chaitanya Mathur, Global Head Events, Zomato. Chaitanya, I know you're not in Delhi, but thank you for taking time. Shoven Shah, Founder, Enchanted Valley Carnival. Hi, Shoven. And Gunjan, Arya, CEO, Only Much Louder. Hi, Gunjan. Thank you for joining. So let's dive in. Before we dive in, guys, an engaged audience is always great. I can see some questions. We'll keep taking it in between. So far, I've gone with some questions. It looks like Some of them are already planned, so I will take them in there, and some of them which are going to be coming in through the conversations, we will, of course, try and take it and take perspectives from the panelists. So let me start with the most important question for you, all of you, the panelists, which is that how your business and your industry is impacted by current situation, and more specifically from an event standpoint. Let's start with Yogesh. Yogesh, what do you have to say about that? Yogesh, you need to unmute yourself.
Hi, good morning. Good morning, and first of all, thank you so much for inviting me to be on this panel, and a great start, Sabbas. Fantastic ideas, and I think it's a way to go, as you mentioned. I think, having said that, I think we all know where the world is at this stage. In fact, I look from my company itself. We as Informa are present in about 45 countries across the world, and nearly 4/5 of our staff is currently working from home. So it means those many countries are really locked down. So it's clearly a thing that the entire world has come to a standstill. It has happened to our events industry also. In fact, if you see, events industry is considered, because we get a lot of people together, it's seen totally anti-social distancing. So really speaking, for us as a business, it's been a big impact since end of February to now. In fact, we have already had to cancel about 10 large format trade shows that we do, multiple conferences and international trainings also that we do. We don't see much activity taking place before probably September 2020 at least. Countries like Germany have clearly mandated that not more than 5,000 people can come together for an organized event now till September. China has stopped all the large format trade shows as of now, with no end date in sight as of now. So as of now, it's a complete standstill. But as a company, we have ways of engaging with our customers, and our customers, though they are not working, they are looking at opportunities, and that's where the entire digital platforms come into picture. And we have managed to a lot of digital initiatives in this space in this span of last 30 to 45 days for our customers. So I think all in all, I think I always see it as a silver lining. There's no dark cloud. So it's always silver lining, because you're pushed to a corner to do something else which your customers find value for. So that's my initial thoughts about this.
Thanks, Yogesh. Manuj, what do you think about that? How are you impacted? Unmute.
Hi. As everybody mentioned, and we know the truth is that obviously events, and we basically operate in large format concerts, Sunburn, Bollyboom, where ticketed shows, So that is something that has come to a complete standstill since March. Our last events were Holi, which were in intensities, and then after that, you had huge cancellations of Road to Ultra, which is the Ultra Miami Festival, Bollyboom events of Diljit and all. But we've always had online interaction with and engagement with our audience, be it Bollyboom, be it Sunburn. We have huge community and fan following. So it was a bit easier for us to immediately start something called Sunburn at home and Bollyboom at home, and get good reach from it. We've been actually working with a very semi-hybrid model of live streaming of most of our Sunburn events. Either with Facebook, IG, or our OTT partner like Z5, who's also a sponsor. So we've always had engagement online. The monetization was limited, but as Sabbas mentioned, that this has actually opened up a huge opportunity and a wake-up call for all of us, in the events industry, that we need to look beyond the engagement and interaction. More than that, in India, as you know, that ticketing and sponsorship models, those are the two things that we operate on in terms of monetization. And besides us, even our sponsors are learning right now how to be more digitally engaged with people if they don't find opportunities. So it is a big challenge, but there is an opportunity which lies with each challenge. So currently we are working on models that we can actually use post the COVID days. We definitely see a huge challenge in the next 6 to 8 months. And our events are large format, 30,000, 40,000 people. So that's something that we're working on. and government will play a huge role in that. So also awaiting guidelines, which are yet to be outlined, for large gatherings. That will lay down a lot of foundation in terms of how we can move forward. So those are things that are in line right now.
Thanks, Manuj. And so that's interesting. We'll come back to sunburn and other stuff a little later. I have a personal interest in that, so we'll come back to that. Chaitanya, what do you think about how's your part of the world? You are in the food industry. It's interesting to see how are you impacted.
Right, absolutely. So at Zomato, Zomato Live, which is our events vertical, we're a sort of nascent, addition to the entire Zomato universe. It's been about 18 or 19 odd months since we've actually launched. We came up with the first IP called Zomaland. Zomaland just this season was scheduled to do about 10 cities. We could do 9. And the 10th one being Bombay was, on a late weekend in March. We had to unfortunately cancel that because of the ongoing situation. But I think how everyone else has addressed it, we understand the value and the impact that this can actually cause. Over the 9 cities that we did, we had over 400 odd restaurants participating, 200,000 people coming through. I think for us at Zomato, it's really about looking at it from a larger perspective. The longer vision is more important. How we look at this is that, this is here to stay. The entire COVID situation, probably the hard truth is that it's going to last, and we're going to be the last people to actually open up in this scenario. Big stadiums, big gatherings, a lot of people. I think that's not something that is going to happen before the vaccine is out. So we have to be mentally prepared for the next 12 months, at least to understand where is the large events format going to go. I'm particularly very impressed with, I think, what Manuj has spoken about, the Sunburn Live aspect. They've had a great following over the years. In particular, I also really like something that OML has put out called the Bulletin. I think we really take inspiration from this. And as Zomato, we try and adapt to what suits our user base the best. We have to be very sensitive because we have an app with a large database. So the content that we put out has to be sort of at a value which is immersive, which is quality. And I think that should really transcend through time. It should be there on the app for as long as possible, not just till the situation is over. So that's how we look at this. And I wish everyone luck for how the next few months are going to pan out.
Thanks. I like the inspiration part. It's always good to take inspiration from your peers, and the conscious optimism is very, very nice. So thank you for keeping the hopes alive.
Thanks.
Gunjan, how are you looking at this?
So honestly, there's no way to sugarcoat what this pandemic has done to the events industry. As somebody called it, it's pretty much anti-social distancing. But that said, there is opportunities that maybe we would have ignored otherwise. A lot of folks in the event industry are almost guilty of not innovating fast enough. And this necessary pause will almost force us to try all the new ideas that perhaps were on the back burner for the longest time. Of course, we know digital mediums provide reach, and Sabbas, that presentation up front obviously sort of put all of us in a very positive mood, so thank you. But yes, we're all trying all of those things. So like Sunburn, we took N87 Weekender live as well. There was a comedy festival that was scheduled for the first weekend of March that we cancelled. And we ended up taking that live in April. So literally a month later, we were live with that. Just as of yesterday, we hosted one of the largest live streamed events in the world. We did YouTube One Nation. I don't know if any of you got that, but it was a 12-hour stream with artists across India. And like one of you mentioned, it was a combination of live streaming as well as pre-recorded sets being streamed. Sabbas, I think you mentioned that. So we are trying these things, and honestly, the onus is on us, because while, yes, the government has to do their bit, and a lot of what our responses are will come from how overall the scenario looks up. So whether it's from protecting lives or then just going to protecting livelihoods, and that's definitely a more urgent response from the government right now. Our responses will necessarily have to be an afterthought to those, or a reaction to those, sorry. So yeah, I think for us, at least for now, we're trying to see where the opportunities lie. We're trying to see all the different ways in which we can reach audiences digitally. We've had some luck in already having dabbled in content extensively over the last few years. And honestly, we couldn't be more grateful for those experiences so that we're able to try all these things right now.
Thanks, Gunjan. And lastly, Shoven, what's your take on your side of the business?
Hi, Sandeep. Hi, everyone. Basically, I'd like to break this up into two parts. One is the festival, which I do with Universal Music, which is called Enchanted Valley Carnival. We started that in 2013, and we've done 5 editions up to 2017. As everyone knows, it's a destination festival, and a festival which is about 150 odd kilometers from Mumbai, and people travel and they come and stay and they experience the festival for 3 to 4 days, unlike a typical concert where people go for 3 to 4 hours in this country. So for us, I mean, if you ask a lockdown, this is like a second lockdown, because we already had a first lockdown in 2017 when the venue shut down by the government, and which was 2 months before the festival. So we had to shift the festival from Ambi Valley to Mumbai, and we had a massive hit, because that is the time when we realized that our festival is actually it's like an experience-based festival where people are not only coming for the artists, but they're coming to experience 3 or 4 days of the festival. We offered a refund in tickets, and our refund rates were close to 92% a month before the festival. So we lost a lot of our key audiences. So I mean, if you ask for EVC, it is very, very difficult to go online or digital, because people come to this festival to create memories. They plan the trip 6 to 8 months before. We see our tickets selling maximum in the pre-sales more than the post, more than the sales closer to the festival, because it needs to be planned. So it didn't really work out for us in the city, and we were hoping to go back in Ambi Valley now, which is resumed in full force. But again, I think this year is going to be really slow. And typically a festival also takes about 8 months to plan. If you have to book artists and you need to create a buzz around the festival to sell the kind of tickets you want to sell, or get monies from sponsors. So and moving on to the second part, I have a company with Book My Show, which is called Tribe Vibe. That basically is into youth. It's basically a company for the youth. We target colleges. The age group we target is 16 to 24. This is a little different from the larger format festivals like Sunburn or NH7 or EVC or Supersonics and stuff. These festivals are not planned like they're not planned 6 to 8 months before. They actually planned maybe 2 or 3 weeks before. So we have time. The college season is shut at the moment. It resumes sometimes in September. We are part of the festivals. In our year one, which was last year, we did close to 400 shows in about 300 colleges. So we have time. We are waiting for things to improve. We anyways are planning between season 1 and season 2 to take a step back and see what went wrong, what went right, to plan for season 2, in order to make our tech better, to be more strong on social media. And as you're aware, Book My Show is a tech and a data company. So we are wanting to make ourselves more strong digitally and on tech. So we will take this time back, and hopefully things will become better in September, October, when we go full force into colleges and hopefully with the festival as well.
Interesting. So thanks, Shoven. I think that throws up a couple of other interesting questions. So one is about sponsors. How do you really monetize? I was hearing Manuj saying that they're going streaming, and saying Gunjan saying that they're going to go into the streaming stuff. Chaitanya trying something around that, and Shoven, you also talking about some of the stuff can be taken online and all this stuff. So virtual is starting to become a little bit real in terms of maybe short term, maybe mid term, and Sabbas said that it's going to be staying here for some time. I mean, not some time. It's the new normal. It will be part of the mix. So how are you guys looking at monetizing this stuff? I'm a big fan of Sunburn and NS7 Weekender, to be honest, guys. So it will be very interesting to see how is industry reacting to that? How are sponsors reacting to that? How are you looking at taking the branding of this on digital in a bigger way? Because it is more about community. It's more about face-to-face. It's about taking, it's the experience on the site. But the whole experience is going to shift if you take it online, right? And of course, sponsors are going to evaluate it from that perspective, and will have competing properties in a digital space which already have some kind of a following and all this stuff, right? And it starts becoming, a very different way of doing business, right? So Manuj, can I start with you? How are you looking at monetizing it, branding it, reaching out to sponsors? How are you looking at that? And of course, I'll come back to Gunjan. Gunjan, feel free to chime in, and same with Shoven. Anybody who want to chime in, please do.
Thanks.
Manuj, you're on mute.
The challenges that we are facing in terms of engaging with the audience, you could understand that there's the same challenges that brands are facing currently to engage with the same audience. All right. So if there's a liquor brand, there is a youth brand which is targeting at 16 to 24. They're facing the same challenges. So one, what Sabbas said, is collaboration. Is we all need to work together to see how we can engage with the audience better. So that lays an opportunity in terms of now us developing strategies for monetizing it. So the first thing that will come is sponsorship, and that we've already managed with people like Kingfisher and Magic Moments and Fast Track and Toyota in terms of getting them on board with our Sunburn at home and Ballroom at home. But this is passive engagement right now because there's a lockdown, there is no sampling happening, there is no way for people to experience the products. But as we go along, and technology will play a big role in this, and we see that one is we need to be able to enhance our content to an extent that we can have consumers pay for it. Okay, so that is one way of it. That is happening in esports right now. If you want to take part in a game or anything, you basically register and you pay. That goes towards your prize kitty. So what do we replace the prize kitty with? If we want somebody else to subscribe or live streaming with, so can we offer more value adds? Can we go the free charge model, saying that, okay, fine, you pay 100 rupees, I'll give you coupons worth 300 rupees back, which can be off the sponsors. Again, so these are all the things that, as Gunjan has said, we were guilty of not exploring this. We event guys, and we are, we can still say we are first generation live concert guys in India right now, So for us, ground is a reality. So, maybe because of our own inhibitions to embrace new technology, new ways, but this is the learning curve right now. While, when in case of Sunburn, in Goa, we might have 60, 70,000 people per day on ground. But on our live stream, we still have 1 million people. Our reach of Sunburn content goes up to 250 to 300 million people throughout the year in terms of, but I guess we like the euphoria and the adrenaline rush of seeing on ground people. So that's the learning that we need to kind of really kind of adapt very fast to see that how we cater well to this audience. There are models existing, maybe not in our industry, but in entertainment for the same youth. A youngster is ready to pay for a esports and PUBG tournament, to play with. He's ready to buy merchandise of PUBG and ready to pay 100 to 300 rupees. PUBG has 10 million daily average users from India. There is a purchase of monthly purchase of 300 rupees on an average on PUBG. So now you can, so this is the same audience that we're talking to. So that's the thing.
That's an interesting thought. Yeah, Manoj, thanks. I think you're right. So the audience is ready to pay. We haven't done it. If I take that leaf from you, this is the call that Sabbas did in the morning when this is the time that industry needs to start innovating and thinking, and there are business models available, and some of them will need to be evolved. Gunjan, what are you trying and attempting something different?
Absolutely. I think I shared a few examples earlier, but I think picking up from what Manuj said, it's really important for us to relook at this time from both perspectives. One is the construct of the event itself. And then the second is the kind of content that we're pushing through that, through the event. So while on the content side, we know that there is interest, for example, Manuj mentioned online for PUBG and gaming overall, there are different pockets, and what online audiences afford us is direct access. And this is what we will have to start monetizing for the sponsors that come on board. Events overall, because they are no longer defined or will no longer be defined by a lot of people gathering in the same place at the same time, it allows us as media or event brands to actually reach out to people in both a continuous as well as contiguous way. So allowing brands also multiple touch points. And that's really what we're going to have to start experimenting with. And a couple of the examples that Manuj gave were great, actually, from a perspective of getting brands that kind of reach.
Interesting. Yeah. So while I can understand the music, the Bollywood, all of the stuff, but what do you do with food? So Chaitanya, that's an interesting space. You know, Zomato is an interesting space. You know, I was reading an article somewhere that the five senses, the four have been exploited by technology in some sense, right? The hearing, the sound, all of it, the what has not yet been explored, right? So, what is Zomato going to do in a virtual space? I'm not talking about food in itself, but you know, the food is always associated with taste, right? So, what is thinking about exploiting that sense of human being?
It's a great point you made about the five senses, but I think at the same time, if you look at it online, the most viral content is really about cooking. So if you see what was trending in India, the coffee or anything on recipes and dishes, I think that's some content that has really been that has got some traction and virality. I think when it comes to Zomato, we obviously we have explored the content side of food. We are looking at this in a very serious way over the next couple of months in terms of actually developing our IP towards more on the lines of, something to do with chefs or cooking or interacting with artists, comedians, DJs from a food perspective. We are looking at sort of options in which we could also integrate the app in some way. Could we make ordering as a part of it? Could we make search and discovery? Because search and discovery is one of the foremost things that Zomato actually began their journey with. And I think even when we do Zomaland is primarily about discovering new restaurants, new chefs, new entrepreneurs that have actually we've given them a platform to come and participate in all the cities we've been at. So when we take this digitally, I think the idea really is that how do we actually keep that as our objective, focus on the fact that we really want to make food the hero, and try and leverage the least amount of user base that we actually have and the maximum amount of good quality immersive content that we can. I think that's how we look at food as moving forward.
Interesting. So let's go back to the audience. You know, I think I've been seeing a lot of interaction on the chat here. I know Mr. Sabbas has to go. Sabbas, thank you very much. Really appreciate your being here. And as usual, the torchbearer for the industry. Really thankful for your advice, and we will come back to you for future advices as well.
The only thing I'd just say before I leave, Sandeep, is I think some of the efforts being made by Gunjan, Manuj, etc., are the starting point of a journey for monetization. But if you look at using technology in the way forward, we will become more responsible to our clients. We will have understood our clients, their customers better. We'll be able to give them better reports. And ROI comes with numbers. The numbers that we're able to demonstrate, the value that we're able to demonstrate will bring us more money in the journey ahead. In many ways, a lot of what we're doing is no longer the same format as what we delivered earlier. The format itself is changing online. The virtual format is different. And the fact that we're changing format, these IPs, these creations of ours in this period will last even beyond our lifetimes. So I don't think it's a dead opportunity. I think it's a great opportunity. You work in your lab. There's an audience there that's waiting to listen, waiting to experience, and give them new experiences, and they'll be yours forever. So thank you very much, Sandeep, Gunjan, Yogesh, Shoven, Chaitanya, and Manuj. Shalini, thank you very much. Stay awesome. Take care.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you so much. All right, so let's go back to our audience to take, we're all talking about virtual, we're all talking about digital platforms, we're talking about streaming. Let's talk to let's take a poll with our audience. So how are they considering moving to virtual events? So Shalini, can we have that poll with the audience, please? People, you have to take this poll and let us know how are you guys thinking. Okay, while people take the poll. So Shoven, Yogesh, I'm going to come back to you after the poll. Okay, are we good?
Just 15 more seconds.
Okay.
Okay.
All right. Let's go. How are people saying? What are people?
We're just getting the results.
All right. That's the beauty of polling on the virtual platforms.
I think we can continue.
Okay.
When the result comes.
Yeah. Okay. Fine. So let's try and see. While the virtual platforms are one way to look at the technology, there is so much more that Sabbas mentioned, and all of the other panelists talked about. I was reading an article from IBM. They're working on so much more on various senses that I was talking about. There is technology that is being worked upon, where people can actually, the smell part of it. There is going to be a phone very soon where you could actually your breath can analyze whether you have any kind of disease, or are you having temperature, or any kind of a which is contagious, so that you can avoid that kind of audience to come into this thing. And now, if you recently look at what happened during the COVID time, it made us learn so much more, that people who attended the various events, we didn't even know who attended, where were they, where did they come from, and then you start chasing them around because they could have exposed people and all this stuff. So much more can be done on the technology side. When Sabbas was talking, I was almost visualizing people with Oculuses all over the place. The mask is a new normal, so Oculus is going to be the new normal. Is that the truth? So it's going to be funny also at times to really adopt to those technologies. So let me come to you, Yogesh. What are you doing related to technology adoption in your part of the world? What are the trends in the industry that you see? Before you go there, I think there are some poll results out. About 41% of the people are still researching and looking to launch it within 1 to 3 months. And I think about 40% are already there who are either pivoted or have are almost using their own current platforms, which is interesting. So it kind of says that almost everybody is looking for virtual, and a large majority has already started using it, which is very interesting. So this is what we were talking about. All of you guys have pivoted. All of the audience is already pivoting. So I'm sure they are now going beyond. They want to hear more than what they're already doing. What kind of technologies exists, and what is the industry veterans like you exploring? So Yogesh, over to you.
Yep. So for the audience sake, let me just tell them that the business which we come from is slightly distinguished from what my co-panelists do. In fact, we are into the B2B events, business to business, large format trade shows, where it is particularly entirely ROI driven. And that's the reason why we get exhibitors at our trade shows. And this industry is about 150 years old and largely has never adopted technology in a big way. Having said that, as Informa, we are erstwhile UBM. In fact, we are pioneers in doing virtual trade shows as far back as 2011, when we launched virtual trade shows in India. And it was probably ahead of time at that point of time. At that point of time, our company had invested in a virtual studio company in Expo, and it was a part of our group. And we started doing trade shows. At that point, the bandwidth requirements were not fulfilling what capacity was needed, and that's the reason it couldn't take off. But now, in this scenario, when we come to the current world scenario where we are now looking at social distancing as a norm, how we give solutions to our customers, because we talk of our events as products. Our largest pharma events that we do gets 50-60,000 footfalls over 3 days from 125 countries. So these are the scale of events that we do, large format trade shows. And so if we have to connect with our customers, we can't go and give them a solution as our trade show. We will have to create something what the customers need. And that is what we have been looking for. And that's where we have deep dived into it. And we have changed the entire strategy over last 30 days, because we had these platforms in-house. So we have started working with some of our in-house platforms, some of our partners, and launched a few virtual trade shows. Of course, webinars is just a beginning, but virtual trade shows is what we are looking at. We are now creating B2B engagement platform for matchmaking. We are looking at doing on-site engagements, online engagement for our partners. So it's lots being planned as we speak. We are looking at matchmaking, direct one-to-one matchmaking for our customers, customized events online. So this is something which we feel is here to stay, at least for the near term. For the next 6 months, the physical events are not going to happen, and if they happen also, we really don't know what sort of participation will be there. So this will be the a thing which we have to complement with our physical trade shows that we do. And coming in the future, in fact, a lot is being spoken in our part of the industry about hybrid events, and I think that is the way to go, because once the business returns back to normal, say in 12 months time, there will still be a large set of audience who will want to be a part of your events, but travel may be curtailed, so they may not be able to come and physically attend your event. So you'll have to keep on doing those large format trade shows also online. A digital engagement platform will have to be created for your customers as well as your visitors or buyers who come to. So once you do that, in fact, the entire world opens to you. Currently, when we are doing events, national events happening in Delhi or Mumbai, we get visitors from across India. We get a few visitors international. We get exhibitors from international. But there's so many visitors who can't come because of the travel budget. And that is the view we are taking. I think once we open this digital space, these are the audiences we are catering to. And this has already started happening. Our virtual trade shows have already started getting international audiences who have started registering for our shows. So this is an entire new avenue which we are looking at. So yeah, I think it's a good time for us to move ahead on this.
I just got a ping from somebody saying they are developing some virtual fairs called .fairs.com under development. Interesting. So Vibhu, Yogesh, you are almost kind of resonating with what Yogesh is saying. So thank you. I think you're on the right path. So coming to Shoven, I think there is a very interesting and pessimist question, I would say. It says, would 2019 be the last year in which reality and experiences are only physical? So Yogesh talked about hybrid. I would probably want to pitch in and say, well, don't be pessimist, my friend. There are going to be hybrid, so it's not an end to the physical events. So in 2019 also, digital was there, streaming was there. It wasn't as big a mix, but now I think everybody is getting hit. So it will be a new normal. I think my view is that 2019 was not the last. It won't be the last. Physical is going to come back. But Shoven, what's your view on that? And maybe you can also dwell into a little bit more on what kind of technologies are you exploring?
We're all hoping that 2019 is not the last year, because our businesses are all built on actually how much ever we try to use technology or, get things online, which everyone pretty much is doing in order to engage with the existing audience. We all are into the business of live events. And for live events, you need to have a physical event for people to come and enjoy. Again, people only talk about things where they have a memory about, and a memory is only created when you actually go to an event and experience it. Things which you hear online are not something which you will probably remember 10 years down the line. So we are all hoping that, things go back to normal, if not this year, hopefully next year, but soon, and we go back to how it was in 2019. But the challenge which I think which everyone will face is that the problem is that any event, be it a large scale event or a small scale, is dependent on sponsors and brands. And the ratio could differ from different for different IPs, but between 40 to 60% is what every IP, or maybe at least 30% is what every IP looks at getting monies from a brand to host a large scale event. If you're looking at, ultimately the brands, what they look at is the real use, or, the actual on-ground experience and the use of their products. So, I mean, most of these festivals over here, NS7 are sponsored by Bacardi, and they've always been associated with Bacardi. Sunburn is with Kingfisher. We've been associated with Bacardi and Absolute for 3 years. So ultimately, every brand wants the users to get the digital, experience or whatever, but they need to ultimately come and drink or use the product. So it's going to be challenging, even if we go digitally or use technology to engage with audiences. If we are going to go to brands and expect them to pay us money for any kind of idea, it's going to be a little difficult to promise them ROI, because the experience is not going to be there. Like ultimately, an alcohol company wants people to use, consume the alcohol. Talking about esports and e-gaming as well, it's something which people are now getting into, because a lot of people are home doing nothing. So they want to engage this audience who is, probably playing games, being PUBG, Counter-Strike, and Call of Duty and stuff. But ultimately, even if you want to monetize this, you have to go to a brand. And the best places to go to are the cell phone companies. And the cell phone companies also need the consumers to use their product. So unless you actually make the consumers use a particular product who's sponsoring us, the kind of monies you can get from a brand is going to be very limited. So we will have to change our approach in how we pitch to brands, how we create IPs, how we create ideas. And it's a bit challenging at the moment, and we are really hoping that things go back to normal so that we can all go back to our business.
Okay, so so there is a clarification from the person. He said, I was only terming physical. Hybrid is always there. So yeah, I mean, so you're right. Maybe I read it differently. So thanks, Faizad, for clarifying on that. Another interesting question for you, Gunjan. It says, why would clients hire us if they can operate Zoom themselves?
Absolutely. That's a great question, because honestly, it ultimately comes down to content and how that content is experienced.
Exactly.
So I know Shoven also spoke about how it's going to be limiting for us to go back to the same sponsors and say, hey, while you can't sample your alcohol anymore on ground, hey, can we get the same amount of sponsorship money? Obviously, the answer is no, unless and until we find different ways to make it meaningful. And we'll have to make it meaningful both from a sponsor perspective as well as fan perspective. So from the sponsor perspective, while yes, there will be newer brands that want to be experienced online. So for example, we took our comedy festival online, where we actually put it behind a paywall. So it wasn't free, unlike the Bacardi N87 weekend online experience. It was sponsored by Bumble, which is predominantly a brand that operates in the online space. So it gave them an opportunity to be in front of audiences that they know are their first port of call. So if you give them an opportunity to engage with fans in such a targeted and niche manner, it's a great marketing exercise for them. And then by putting it behind a paywall, we actually monetized content that we knew that fans would be willing to pay for. It was it was 5 days, 3 shows every day, and more than 70% of the shows were sold out. So we had fans turning up, and these were in larger numbers than the small comedy rooms that we do our shows in. So most comedy rooms are anywhere between 100 to 150. Here we had an average of 250 people and up, paying upwards of 250 again. There were some tickets that went for 500 rupees per show. So there are opportunities, but again, it comes down to who is paying for what kind of content. And we'll have to see it as content. So yes, brands or clients can operate Zoom themselves, but if that's all we're bringing to the table, then no, they don't need us.
Right, and you're so right. I think it's content, it's also the engagement, it's the experience, and I think from a technology side, because we provide a lot of technology. Steven, for example, has tools which can execute virtual business events and capture the digital footprint, because you really need to also capture the digital footprint of the person and then take it back as leads into your CRM systems and then follow it through. It's not only about, it's now a full package, right? It is about registration, the experience at registration, it's the polling, it's the engagement, it's then taking those feedbacks. You know, I can see a lot of feedback from the questions that you're putting up into the Zoom. How do we really pick this up, take it into the CRM, and then start talking about what you really want? This is the social content, right? This is the content on the right side that I can see, which is real customer feedback or questions. Can we take this back into the CRM systems and start giving that to the solution providers? You know, brand always wants to provide solutions, right? So this is the great way. So virtual is a great way for immediate feedbacks and asks from the customers. So how do you really funnel this back to the brand? It shouldn't end at the event. You know, the event is in the moment, right? Everything happens post event for a brand, right? So I think the brand is more interested into these conversations, and how do we really take these conversations through technology back into the feedback channel and start talking and using that and funneling that back to the customers. I think that's where the technology is going to play a lot of role. We do a lot of that in Cvent. So if you have any questions and if you have interest, reach out to us, put your questions into the chat and we can help you out with that. There's another interesting question there. Where is that? Okay, we'll come to the venue a little later. It says, there's a question for Manuj. Manuj, if you can see that, it says, have you guys created an ROI metrics for sponsors, as Sabbas mentioned, considering as of now, live music content viewership is not very high. Do you think that, is there a ROI metrics or something that you're looking at?
Thanks for the question. You know, actually, it's much better when you're talking about digital. In fact, for our ground events, the ROI matrix is a bit qualitative and subjective, you know, in terms of, because that's driven mainly by the number of tickets you've sold and number of people in front of your stage, how many people have visited the brand stalls, you know, that's the kind of, and what data you can give back. That's the only matrix that we give, and whatever media we do in front of traditional digital media. And for Sunburn and Bollyboom both, for the past few years, the digital ROI has been the main reason why many of the brands have, you know, engaged with us, because that gives them 365 days engagement platform that gives them, as Gunjan had mentioned, direct kind of engagement with the audience that they're engaging with. So in fact, digitally, it is much easier to give an ROI to a brand, you know, from the click-through ratio, from the reach ratio, engagement ratio, these viewer numbers, you know, and that is good for us because that's the currency they've been using till now. So suddenly, we don't really have to go to the owner or the brand manager and based on his gut feel to sponsor an event, because as long as we land up on the media planner table, you know, it's a 1 month exercise in terms of giving exercise. Whereas now, in fact, we have a bigger pie that we can target. All the brands which are targeting 16-24 have a decent digital spend. Currently, our events don't qualify for the ATL budgets. They don't qualify for the digital budgets, you know, sponsorships, because we don't really have such a big television footprint in terms of, you know, like an IPL or something else. So whereas if we increase as brand, as IP owners, we need to basically understand the kind of opportunity that is there, because we can be part of the mainstream budgets now if we have a more digital footprint. You know, in terms of getting more buck, we'll have more brands being available to us who would not like to have targeted 20,000 people on ground, because their cost per contact is much lower that we can target, you know. So there are people who are in the FMCG space who might now look at us because we are giving them that kind of cost per contact and bigger footprint. But yeah, we need to change, you know. And I would not say that 2019 was the last for physical and hybrid. I think the 2019 can be the first year for physical and hybrid in a way. It's a new start rather than an end to something, you know. Yeah.
Agree. So I think that's a great point. So, you know, there was a question for Yogesh that how are the, you know, the returns on investments and budgets working for the trade fair. So there's a question called virtual events fetch the revenue. Would the virtual events fetch the revenue what we expect from B2B trade fairs? You know, do you think that there will be a revenue impact in the B2B trade fairs as compared to the physical events in a virtual space? Yogesh, you there? I think we've lost Yogesh. We'll come back to him. There's another question which was actually part of my questions as well, that there's so much of disruption right now that that people are looking at. A lot of ecosystem and the value chain has got affected. The production value chain has got affected. The people have got impacted. So while in our interaction till now, we have talked a lot about technology, how the technology will play a role, how the disruptions will come, how the innovation will happen. But how do you really see it impacting people? You know, there's so many people who are involved into the event technology. How are you guys thinking about upskilling, enabling the people to adopt technology, upskill their technology, drive their adoption? Because this whole thing will be a very different scale. We, for example, in Cvent are right now offering, to all the planners, a free certification on event technologies and on the sourcing platform. So audience, if you need any help on that and you want to really upskill yourself on some of the technologies that we provide, you have a free certification available. Call out on the chat. But I really want to understand from here, how are you looking at this problem? Because it's already staring us, right? So you have your staff, you have your people. How are you really upskilling them? Gunjan?
I think that's a great thought, and thank you for putting it out there. I think a lot of people could benefit from a crash course on event technology. So I know the EMA, for example, has been holding a bunch of workshops as well, but I think anybody who can literally help us force ourselves to digitally transform will go a long way. Even for our event teams, for example, the teams that were largely involved in planning on the on-ground event locations, for example, those that focused on 3D design, etc. We've anybody who's good with a laptop, we've actually put them into classes. We're saying, hey, go figure out how to produce content. So there are a bunch of them that are learning things as basic as Photoshop to then even show calling for a digital show. What does that mean? So we've actually put down a whole process manual of, hey, these are the 3 things to do. This is what it means to do sound check for a virtual event. This is what it means to get the artist ready. Because as artists, at least musicians, are very used to sort of just going on stage. Everything is taken care of for them. But in our case, while everybody is at home and trying to perform from home, you're also taking care of a lot of equipment that you wouldn't have otherwise. So these are things that we're constantly learning and sharing with our teams as we go by. But honestly, it's only been a month, so I don't think we've done enough in terms of upskilling, but there will be a lot more of this coming going forward.
Yeah. Shoven, are you guys working on this space as well? I mean, are you looking at, is it any different for you from how you are looking at upskilling? Do you have any advice for the industry for that?
There are 2 sets of people. Everyone over here, I believe, has a lot of good following on social media. Most of the IPs, most of the festivals, they already have the customer base. Some of the companies are very good with their content. I'm already a big fan of OML. The content they create is amazing, not only for their own IPs but also for the brands. So I think it's probably easier for certain companies to sustain digitally and with technology. But there are certain companies who are only based on ground and production, like these production companies, vendors and stuff and all. They are highly dependent on events that we create for them to kind of generate revenue. So for us, if you ask us, typically yes, we are trying to do as much as we can digitally and online, because we do have a customer base sitting over there to engage. But it's going to be difficult for a lot of people unless things go back to normal. And basically it's a chain. So if events don't happen, there are 1,000 people associated with that who do not probably have. Basically, a source of earning is dependent on events happening on ground. So more than us, there are going to be a lot of people dependent on larger format events and events happening.
Right. Chaitanya, I mean, in the corporate sector, how is that being evaluated? Is it any different for you guys?
So Zomato is predominantly a tech startup, right? I think we're a direct to consumer app. When it comes to events, again, like events is a completely new side of what Zomato is really, forward into. I think there is a lot of tech support that we can get. Well, obviously right now we're focusing a lot more on the food delivery and grocery delivery as essential items to supply all over India. I think the second aspect of this will sort of move towards how can we actually leverage the app and create sort of virtual content platforms, create multiple IPs, if not one, and sort of go very heavy on that side of building this out, which will involve a lot of people that actually can develop skills on tech. And I think, as you said, it's a great thing that people could actually do a crash course on event technology. And I think it's a must for anyone and everyone in the event industry today, because while this situation may not last forever, I think technology is going to be here to stay. And I think we have to sort of start pivoting towards using more and more technology. I love the hybrid event aspect. In fact, a festival in Netherlands called King's Day actually just did that. A lot of Indian artists that I speak to, DJs and comics, both have already started making their own green screens and started figuring out ways that they can actually create content which could be more immersive and virtual. I think, the next steps towards this being sort of a tech heavy company is going to start exploring more avenues to drive technology and create better virtual experiences.
Superb. Okay, so I think we talked about technologies, we talked about virtual, hybrid. I think I still see a lot of questions. Is virtual the only world? Is the world come to a stop? All of that stuff. So let's answer that question through poll. So I think there was a comment that Sabbas made in the beginning. He was pretty optimistic about. He gave some future gazing and said, when will the physical world be back? Okay, let's see how many of us believe in that. So Shalini, let's take the poll. By when do you see the face-to-face events are returning? Okay, so let's take some poll from people.
This time the poll is also open to the panelists.
Great.
All right.
Thank you.
I don't mind doing that. Okay, good, done. While people take those polls, I'm going to come back to Shoven. Shoven, I think there is while the recovery is a gradual process, I think people will give some future view to us. One of the considerations that all of us in the event organizations would have to adopt is a safe distancing. Right, so that's a new normal. It's going to be new stuff. So, but due to social distancing, will we see more? Gunjan talked about it, but will we see more of virtual site technology, diagramming tools? Will venues do something different from a technology perspective? What are you what are you expecting from venues, and what are you seeing from an industry perspective? By the way, this is back. We have the poll results. So quite a lot of people are actually saying October. That's the Q4 for this year, and some of them. So actually, overwhelming majority is saying before this year, which is more than 57% of the people are saying it will come back before Q4 or within the Q4. And there's some, only 10% are actually saying uncertain. So I think by and large, people are pretty optimistic, which is, I think it's interesting because in my view, yes, I was expecting there's going to start something is going to start in Q4, but yeah, early Q1 is going to be a very good time. what do you think, Shoven, on this? And then also on the question that I raised on the social distancing part.
Regarding the poll, I think it's good that people are optimistic. I mean, if
that's right,
optimistic, it's good for us as well. We also are optimistic for that matter. But again, events, again, I probably break it up into parts. Some events are large-scale events, and some events are, in terms of large-scale events, I'm talking about 10,000, 20,000 plus audiences. Those events, if you ask me honestly, of course, there could be a different opinion, but those will be the last to open up. If you're looking at, going out and watching a movie with social distancing, or probably going for a comedy show where you can go to a theater with alternate seating, or a outdoor event with a smaller audience, Chaitanya can probably, you can do a smaller version of his Zomaland where you don't have 10,000 or 5,000 people, but, a more curated experience with probably 500 people. Those are opportunities which you guys probably can look into. But if you're looking at a large scale festival with international artists coming down, spending millions of dollars, getting them down, you need to have a large audience. And I think those are definitely not going to start till next year, because even if the government gives a go ahead, okay, fine, you guys can go and host events, we still have to take into consideration, will the audience actually buy a ticket 6 months or 3 months before? I need every event needs 5,000 or 10,000 or 20,000 to break even. So will the audience commit to something like this a few months before, or will they wait for the last moment? That is a question which every large-scale event or IP is going to ask themselves. So I think once you take all these things into consideration, they might not plan things this year, and probably look at things to improve and then start planning. So to answer the poll, basically, I think even if things open up and audience is looking at going back and partying, I'm not really sure how many events will actually happen this year.
Excellent. Okay, so I think. So coming back to the social distancing on and the other technologies that venues are expected to use, do you have any expectations from the venues?
I think the venues will have to start using some kind of a technology and adopt measures for social distancing if they want people to come back and host events. But again, these events, I believe, are again going to be smaller events, and not like, even if you are looking at an indoor venue which has a 5,000 capacity, they probably could be operating at 20% or 25%. So again, the scale of the event is going to be much lesser. The kind of money spent by event company on these events is going to be lesser. The kind of money invested by brands are going to be lesser. So yes, but I believe it's a start. I think everyone will have to adopt to technology in order to start. I mean, unless you start, basically you need to start off somewhere. And this is the only way you can start off is with technology. And basically you need to give confidence to people to come back out and start attending events. You cannot directly start and do a 20,000 people event. You need to start with the 500 event and then move on slowly and get things back to normal.
Gunjan, you actually touched upon some of the diagramming tools, and also, by the way, we have a diagramming tool which we are giving to the hotels to do the 3D modeling of their banqueting spaces. They can actually do the virtual tours for the planners to really show their venues and all that stuff. We have something interesting that that was done for something else, but now it's become so relevant. A product called Passkey, which actually does a rooming while registration. So you avoid to really queue up at the time of when the people actually, groups come to the hotel, they queue up, and you manage those Excels and all that stuff, and there are crowds there. You could actually seamlessly go and book your rooms and all that stuff. That'll keep some social distance. So we have some tools in our kitty, but I'm sure that you are looking at some very interesting stuff and you have some expectations from venues as well.
Actually, just overall, I think this poll is a lot more optimistic than I am personally, which is really nice.
Which is good, right? So, it is, hope keeps everything alive, right?
I agree. And just looking at how governments are responding, and I think a lot of people sort of touched upon this earlier, a lot of it is going to depend on, or at least the strategies that we use in terms of social distancing, etc., are going to depend on how we are able as a society to deal with what's happening. So obviously there are Scandinavian countries, and I know Chaitanya mentioned the festival in Norway, where there are enough number of hospital beds as there are population. So they're able to care for everybody, which is why they're able to have festivals. The governments are okay with having people go out. Or even tiny country like Lithuania, where they've actually opened up large parts of their cities and allowed restaurants to set up tables outdoors with 2 meters gap between each table. So businesses haven't necessarily had to shut down because they figured out how to do that necessary physical distancing while people are still out and about. So I think for us, given the population here, given how tightly packed most of our venues are in any case, compared to what we're seeing globally, we will have to wait and see what other global leaders are doing. So I think the closest example of what we see at whether it's Sunburn or EVC or even the Bacardi N87 Weekender is probably what you see at amusement parks. And I know that the folks at Disney right now are trying to figure out what is it that gives people confidence to come back, what are the technologies that we need to use, etc. And I know some of the technologies that they're looking at is how do you test at scale? Is there something even like an immunity passport, which is once you've been infected, you're fine when you come out. But we know, for example, that we don't know enough about the virus at the moment. So the concept of the immunity passport, which was very comforting about 2 weeks ago, apparently has been dished by scientists now. So I think we're going to have to wait to find out once we know enough and then react from that perspective. But that's my very conservative point of
till it is unknown, right? So but Yogesh, thanks for coming back. I think I kind of lost you in between. So there was a question for you, but before we get there, I think in your part of the business, venues are very important, right? So how are you looking at, what are you expecting venues to do when this business starts coming back? And by the way, if I don't know whether you were there when we took the poll, a large majority of people are saying events are going to come back in the Q4. So that's a good news, right? So at least if not Q4, Q1 is a done deal. I'm taking it that way. So so what do you say?
So I was there for the poll. I voted too, and I'm a bit more optimistic even than the audience. I feel September would be the right time, not the Q4. I think September would be, because at least the small format events would start happening in September onwards. Yesterday, in fact, if some of you may not know, Hunan Auto Show started in China, and in fact, it was as good as any exhibition really. So the auto show starting, it was a very positive sign for our industry, and we could see as good as any normal exhibition. So of course, they were not adhering to the social distancing norms over there. From venue perspective, if I come back to your question, in fact, we as a company are in fact globally preparing our own social distancing norms, which we need to adhere to, and we'll be customizing it country specific depending on the guidelines that we get from the government. From venue, definitely we have a lot of expectation. In fact, the expectation what we have, in fact, put forward to the various venues also are primarily to do with sanitation, maintenance, and communication, because it's going to be very critical what they do. They communicate it to internal and external stakeholders, because until they do, I think it's jointly as event organizers and venues are going to be partners in this. It's not just events organizers' responsibility to go and communicate out to the audience. It's the venue communicating and sending a positive message that we have done this. There's something regarding to digital registrations, which what they will have to do they'll have to create those kiosks where that digital, because we have such enormous footfalls that come to our events, and if we have those queues at the registration desk, it's going to be very difficult to manage. So I think those are basic things which the venue should do. They should also look at doing some things on thermal scanning. So technology related to thermal scanning, if they can implement in the venues, I think that would in fact filter the crowd which is getting inside the halls. So we are looking at rostering our visitors now. In fact, a lot of events are thinking of roastering visitors. So we don't let all the footfalls in. We say between 10 to 1, we will allow only 2,000 visitors to get in. We'll have to roster so these are new thoughts which are coming to which are being discussed in our part of the world right now. How do we manage the crowd within that? And we are looking at bigger booths so that they may want more people coming inside the booths. They can practice social distancing there. So a lot going to change as we move ahead. But face-to-face is definitely going to remain. And I think venues have a big role to play in this. In fact, once they do this, I think they will build credibility around for the venue. And when there are so many venues coming up in India, there are already existing venues. In fact, the more they can do it, the more they will build the credibility for those venues, and more events will start happening at those venues, and more footfall start coming to that venue. If you are not able to build that credibility at this stage, in fact, the events would move out of those venues. That's my thought.
That's very helpful. And so just again, because we are in this space, so I keep giving this inputs to all the audience. There is a free tool available again. It's called Shoven Supplier Network, which has more than 400,000 venues available free of cost. You can just go explore in any part of the world and send RFPs. So just go and explore. It's a free tool available. It's called Shoven Supplier Network. Just go and look at, if you are looking and exploring any of the venues in the world, you can actually just go and explore on this tool. It's again for the community. People can use it. Planners can use it. So again, I want to make use of this time, because I'm just playing the role of whatever we can do for the community. We should be able to help in this given time. So all the audience, if you really want to explore that, please go ahead and use that, and it'll be really. We keep adding venues there, so make use of that. So this is interesting, guys. I think I'm on the top of the hour, the last few minutes left. So I first of all want to thank everybody, but I just want to leave the last 5 minutes for each of you to sum up. What's your advice to the industry, to the audience? I think the audience has given a resonating, positive message that things are going to be normal. Things are going to be, well, they wouldn't be normal, but there'll be a new normal. But it's coming back. We are resilient and we'll bounce back. I think I see it as a very, very positive signal. So I would leave the panel with the last 1 minute each to give their message to the industry. So I'll start with Shoven. You wanna give some parting message to all the audience? You're on mute.
Shoven, you're on mute.
Sorry. So, I mean, if you ask me personally, I think things will get back to normal, but it's going to take some time. So, I mean, for smaller events to larger events, something between 6 months to maybe 1.5 years to completely go back to normal, if it ever goes back. But I mean, I guess it's everyone needs to have patience, be it event organizers or be it the audience. Things are not going to change overnight. We are all trying to work hard in order to try and survive and bring as much of content and as much of entertainment possible on digital and other platforms. But yes, all of us are still hoping that things go back to normal so we can go back to our routine business. But yes, it's going to take some time. So I think patience and innovation, I guess, are the two things which everyone needs to work on and have.
Excellent. Patience and innovation, guys. That's the word. Gunjan?
So again, yes, patience, wait and watch. But I think the one thing that we're all here for is the fact that we love creating events that bring people out. And the one thing that digital can't necessarily replace is the intimacy and the joy of experiencing something together as a community. And anyone who's organizing digital events at this point of time really needs to look for ways to do that. So whether, for example, even during our panel today, we had an audience poll that sort of brings us closer together. We know what people are thinking. All the questions have been really helpful. Similarly, with events that are going digital, we will have to find a way to organize watch parties or opportunities for fans to talk back to their artists. Even artists find it really hard to speak in a vacuum. You can only imagine how hard it is for a comic or a musician to be, strumming along or like saying their jokes out loud to an empty room. It's obviously not going to land the same way. So I think most people, so as event organizers, while we have been perfecting the craft of, what makes a great physical experience, I think that's where we will have to focus our attention right now and figuring out what translates well digitally as well.
That's the same advice. Chaitanya?
So I think we're in a time of disruption. Disruption can only lead to two things, a new opportunity or further disruption. I think it's a really good time for everyone to put their thinking hats on. We all know events are magical. There's a thrill in them. We want them to be back. So everybody has to now recreate and reimagine what we're doing for the next 1 year. we at Zomato obviously identifying the virtual platforms that we all discussed, but at the same time, we're also looking at the other countries that we're in. We're in 24 odd countries. We're looking at countries where COVID is not that widespread. So Australia and New Zealand is right at the top for us, UAE, Indonesia. So we're actually taking our local Indian IP into these countries, so this is our game plan. And I just wish that everyone starts reinventing, reimagining what they're doing. We want to see events back sooner than later.
Okay, very interesting. So patience, Shoven, it was patience and?
Innovation.
Patience and innovation. It was intimacy. It's innovation, disruption. Yogesh, what's your buzzword?
Nice. So for me, I think nobody can take away the charm of face-to-face. As Gunjan rightly said, I think the intimacy of doing business face-to-face, meeting people. I would rather come and talk to you face-to-face and do this. So that's not going to go away. But having said that, I think we are changing entirely new. As Chaitanya also, it's a disruption. We are in a new world order, I think, and digital has come of age, and we need to absorb that, we need to adopt that. And so the hybrid model of events is here to stay. It will add a new dimension to your business. So I think that's my message. I think we should look at adopting digital as well as, of course, physical is going to be there, but digital will complement it in a big way going ahead.
So phygital. Okay. So phygital for you. Parting, Manuj.
Thanks to all. It's been an interesting chat. Sandeep, I mean, we are a social being, human beings, in terms of, so we love getting out, and more so in India that, any one thing and you have people on the roads. We're a country of Ganpati and Dashera and Durga Puja, and, we like to be social. So as Shoven and Chaitanya said, and Gunjan, that, we are hoping that the normal comes back as soon as possible, because there's nothing that can take away the socializing aspect of us, the energy that we generate, the energy that we get from people, when we are together. So hoping for that. But in the same way, we cannot even ignore what this time has taught us, in terms of, and go back to normal. And that'll be foolishness, whether it being venues, whether it being government regulations for venues. We work in open venues, for to do large format events, where the government should work towards making hygiene facilities there, sanitation there, which are permanent feature, which will add to the value to the venue, which are the biggest thing, because large events don't have that kind of health and hygiene, which we would love to give our consumers, because the venues don't allow us to build that for 3 days festival. You cannot build permanent structure, which has to come from government. Similarly, know your customer is going to be a big way now. We've got to understand that. And lastly, the hybrid model, I guess that's a wake-up call for us event organizers and IP organizers, that we need to take that on right now. We can't ignore it. It's an opportunity. It's a whole market lag in front of us. So I would like to tell all, Sandeep, you and all our technology friends here, that if you have solutions, please reach out. As I said, we are novice in this, we might not even know what technologies are existing right now, which can help us, So please reach out to us, share your experiences, share the tools that you have, how we can make our experience much better virtually. And that'll be a good start,
Thanks, Manoj. And our commitment to you from a technology side, we will be more, and we will try and bridge the gap with any. So thank you again, all of you. I really want to thank Shalini for curating this very nice interaction. My team back in Cvent, Sanjay and Manpreet and everybody else. So really, really thankful for giving this opportunity, and especially to the audience for being very patient and asking some very interesting questions. So thank you again, and thank you, gentlemen, and Gunjan, thank you very much. Shalini, really appreciate your time. Thank you very much, and stay safe.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.